Within your community, though, do you feel like you just were kind of like, you felt good? Like, do you feel like you fit into your community, into like your Indian community?
No.
Absolutely not. Actually, no.
Hell no.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Break the Norm Podcast, where we break free from the so-called normal and build something real, bold, and unapologetically you. I'm Ruth Solorzano, actor, producer, and living proof that you can come back from most things.
And I'm Lily Shaw, actor, mentor, creator of Shine Anyway course, and someone who's never believed in playing small. It's time to break the norm.
Together.
We're having a great time today.
We are definitely being challenged.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, I was kind of like talking about the fact that I feel like so much of my life I've always kind of been the other. Like I grew up in a suburb too, a lot of my life, and I was the only brown girl. Not only brown, but I was also like the only Dominican girl, which is because there's like no Dominicans in California, like very few Dominicans in California. And I'm Dominican and Guatemalan, so that's even more crazy. And then I have curly hair, which is like so different from like anyone that I was around. So I've always felt like I've never really fit in. What about you?
I mean, I was gonna say first things like I'm one of those weirdos who doesn't even know the difference, like Dominican, Guatemalan, like, you know what I mean? So like
that's not weird. That's most people.
Like, you know, like
yeah.
Even just having that kind of conversation is like such a huge change, you know? So I don't think that like, at least like where I live, there were enough Indians or whatever, you know, like that brought with itself its own fucking challenges and limitations. But
within your community though, do you feel like you just were kind of like, you felt good? Like, do you feel like you fit into your community, into like your like Indian community?
No.
Absolutely not. Actually, no.
Hell no. Again, you know, like every conversation that I have, it's almost always, it's like before and after, because there's the Indian version and then there's the American life. Like it's so, you know, I think for me, I don't know, like I fit in school.
Right.
Because I was a high achiever and all of that stuff. And I was like, my teachers liked me. I was one of those people who as a teenager had real friends, not like frenemies, but like friends. So I fit in school really well, actually. When I was in India and I was growing up, I was pretty well loved and, dare I say, respected for who I was. It was never really a problem, me being me. And I think a big part of that was my family, like my mom and my dad also, which is very rare, were very welcoming of my like who I was. Like they had very specific ideas. They were not like, they were Indian parents, so they had very specific ideas of like what they wanted me to be.
Yeah.
But there was enough of a room because they were creatively, I think, inspired themselves. So when that creativity started showing up in me, they didn't like stifle it down.
Nice.
So I think that was a doorway for me to start finding my own individuality, which then became the way for me to like stand out. So when I was in India, I was standing out and I was comfortable with it. And on the flip side of it was I was tremendously hated, even in India, by my family members, by relatives. I don't know why. I think it's because I was overweight. I don't know. But my teachers and like other members of my family didn't like me. Like I just was not liked. But I was successful enough that their dislike didn't affect me that much. Because when you're successful, you know, you become the standard bearer. And so everybody is constantly comparing themselves to you. And you're like, okay, fine. Like, it's like, you can hate me, but you really just want to be like me. So you start to understand that that's where their hatred is coming from. So I lived in that kind of a world, the love-hate world, when I was growing up.
That's so interesting of just like because you were successful or because you were a high achiever, you were able to kind of like be that, you know, like kind of like separate yourself from
correct.
that feeling or that vibe. And then, but then I know you've talked about before, like coming to the States and how like that just kind of othered you, right?
Yeah, and then that same high achieving thing became the thing that also like all of a sudden those same family members who never liked me to begin with, like they somehow got the freedom and the permission to like openly hate me because I was like a good student and because I was like my name was in the paper and this and that. So and then we went to a part of Indian community where people were not as well educated as we were. They were not, we went from a cosmopolitan city to a village. You know, we went, like, I went to school with kids of ambassadors and, you know, private schools in India. And here I was going to school with people who had never been to college.
Right.
Indian community, who were like first generation college goers themselves. So, like, to say that I was the other is like the ultimate like understatement, because not only was I not fitting into the Indian community because they literally like I was the city girl,
right,
and and then I wasn't fitting into the American community because I was Indian,
right.
So I just had no place that was mine. I just had no like that. Like honestly, coming out to LA to become an actress, like officially become an actress, was the first time when I felt like, okay, maybe I have found a city where people were like me. That was the first time, like, where at least I was away from that mindset, you know, those are people, you know, Republicans.
Oh. You mean from Sacramento? Republicans in Sacramento? No.
Yeah. Even,
no,
like,
I know.
I mean, fucking immigrants. I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna be?
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I'm Latin, so I'm allowed to say this. Latin people are some of the most racist people you'll ever meet. Oh, yeah. Especially against their own people. Like, my mom is a Black Dominican woman, and my dad is a white Guatemalan man. My biological father. And my biological father's family was hurtful and like racist towards my mom growing up.
Oh, because
she's dark, and because they kind of blamed her for my dad's like detriment. Instead of him taking his own responsibility.
Of course.
And you know, she's the dark girl that like brought all of this, like this man down, right? Because it's always that. It's always the woman who does it. And so I've always kind of had that, right? Because I've had like a white dad basically and a Black mom, and we're Latin. And so I remember growing up too, like just being taught like that certain people, Mexican people, or people who were from villages versus the city, or people who were dark. It was just so ingrained in my upbringing that these people were not right. But then, and even for my own self, the own racism that I feel like I dealt with of, for example, my hair. Like I used to straighten my hair all the time, like every day for so much of my life. And a lot of that was because so much of my life I was told that my curls weren't enough.
Yeah.
My curls, there's a word in Spanish and it's pajon, or they'll say like pajonuda. And it basically means like, oh, you have like that big hair. And it's always like a derogatory term.
Like they used to call me exotic.
Yeah.
Oh, you're very exotic.
Exotic, or like, you know, ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
Yeah, but even in like, I'm saying like, even in like Latin communities, you know, they call you like pajonuda, or you're morena, or like you're too dark, or you're
Morena, that's the movie. Morena?
Morena, probably. It just means dark girl is what morena means. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or like don't stay out in the sun too long because you're going to get too dark.
Yeah,
like things like that were told
Indian.
to me my whole life.
Yeah.
And it took so much of me to like realize that was also internalized, and that I was internalizing that, and I was like expressing almost like hatred towards my own self. And it took a long time for me to be like, oh, wait, no, I am actually beautiful. And I love my skin color. And yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to stay in the sun, even though I don't want to get skin cancer. So I do wear sun protection. But, you know, it was one of those things where I had to reframe the way that I talk to myself, because so much of that was in my upbringing and in the way people I knew talked, you know?
So then, how do you like being like different already, right? Like being different just within the Latin culture.
Sure.
And then being different in the American culture.
Right.
Right. So how did you get to that place where it started to feel like, hey, like fuck them and fuck them. Like I'm me. Like what is that?
Oof, what is that? A lot of time. With yourself.
Correct. And you know, I really do want to like stress the importance of time.
Yes.
Like, I think we have gotten so used to like just time lapsing things that we don't realize the importance of like the growth and the change and the evolution that comes with time.
Yeah, it's time. I mean, I remember my therapist used to tell me that too. She's just like, give it time.
Yeah.
You know, like let time pass, let time pass. And you're so impatient, especially in this culture that we're living in where everything is just like right away.
Yeah.
So I think time was a big thing. I think also just finding other people, finding community, finding people who maybe aren't the same as me, but have been through similar things as me, or who, you know, to be honest, I think I've talked about this before, like the gay community was like they opened their doors to me because I was different and they were different. And so that was like somewhere I was able to find community. Finding community with the others, because that's one thing that I've learned is like, we're not special, right? There's always...
We're all special in our own way.
I know, but that's such bullshit. I'm sorry. No, it's not. Everyone, how many duplicates are there of us in the world? There's like some weird like statistic that's like, there's like 17 other people that are like just like us.
Excuse me.
That look like us.
I'm my own person. Sheesh.
But no, like, we're not special in the way where like there's always someone there who has been through that similar thing that you've been through.
Yes.
And so
you and I are proof of that.
Exactly. And so finding people who you can really like commune with and who can give you that reflection of yourself is always kind of like oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one going through this. Okay, great.
Yeah, and I think this is the way that abuse is actually designed to work. It isolates you.
Yeah.
It makes you believe, one, that you're at fault, that if you were a better person, whiter person, not dark person, a man, blah, 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 that all this stuff wouldn't be happening to you, right? But then systemically, it's designed to make you think that the isolation, that there is shame in sharing yourself. And that is so built in, these kinds of like othering experiences, right? Where you are told that like, even if you want help, like just like ask, like women were shamed for not being able to do it all, right? How do you balance it all, And this thing of getting to that place where you can ask for help, getting to that place where you can respect yourself enough and go, hey, maybe this thing is too much for me, is just such a heroic, like, Herculean task.
Yeah.
Just getting to that place that I know a lot of people don't get to.
Yeah. And I mean, the good thing is I think we are cultivating a society that is allowing people to kind of speak their minds a little more and get to that place.
Yeah.
At least here in the US, I mean, I can't speak for other countries. I'm sure other countries are doing strides. And not to say that we're perfect or that we're not going backwards in a lot of ways, but
we'll be here forever.
There's hope. There's hope when there's people like us doing podcasts.
That's interesting because one of the most surprising things we discovered when we were doing the research on our podcast is to find out that there is no other women of color working in the podcast industry as hosts.
Very few. We don't know because those are the top. But out of the top 100
that's what I was
Apple
saying.
Podcasts, yes.
Yeah, none. Which I was like, wait a minute, like even there, even in how you express yourself, how you're sharing your voice, there is a hierarchy built in.
There is. I think that part of that also, to be quite honest, is who are the people that have the time and the resources to do podcasts.
Correct. And that was the second thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the whole thing, right? The ones who have already available to them a way to share their voice, share their opinion, have support available, community available, find themselves rising to the top faster than the ones who are left to their own devices and who are then asked to carry the shame and the burden of their so-called not success.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And like I said, like, the resources and the time, just the time.
Like
the time of it is like, I mean, as we know, as we've been doing, like this has been taking us months to like come up with this whole thing. And just to have that luxury, it's almost like a luxury, really.
And it shouldn't be, right? I mean, and I think that is the whole idea of like fitting in, right? Like sharing your voice, being seen, being heard shouldn't be a luxury. It should feel like it's built in, right? It should be a privilege, or rather it should be a right and not a privilege.
Yeah.
And I think the reason both of us kind of like gravitated towards this is because we have personally wrestled with this idea of like, how much do we fit in, right? And how much do we stand out? Because the desire to belong is so strong. But then how much do you belong so that you end up compromising yourself?
Right.
And then at that time, you have no choice but to stand out.
Right. And, that reminds me of just being an actor, because like for so long, like I said before, like I used to straighten my hair. I used to try to fit in this box. Like I'd be like, okay, who does the industry see me as, right? They see me as a black girl, kind of. It's weird because it's like I'll get called in for like black roles, but I'll be the lightest person there. But then I'll be called in for like Latin roles and I'll be the darkest person there.
Interesting.
And so I'm like, never really fit the thing that they want, right?
Yeah.
And they don't know what I am. They're like, oh, she's Latin?
Yeah.
Okay. Latin people don't even know I'm Latin.
Yeah, that used to happen to me. Indian people didn't know that I was Indian.
Yeah. And so it's just like, I feel like for so long, I was like, well, I'm trying to fit this box. I'm trying to be the Latin girl. And so like, even like most Latin women don't keep their hair curly. And then like black women, a lot of black women keep their hair straight or they wear a wig or like, and
fitting in.
Exactly. They're always trying to fit in this box.
Yeah, becoming a digestible version of.
Thank you. Thank you. Which is why I don't straighten my hair. Part of why I don't straighten my hair anymore.
Sorry.
And why I keep it short too. Because that was like a whole thing too, where I had long hair for a really long time and it was like wrapped in my identity where I was like, oh, I need to have this length, like as a Latin woman, like you have to have long hair. It makes you beautiful. It makes you like stand out. And I was like, no. And then finally, like I cut it and it just like has been so freeing.
I mean, Sofia Vergara was asked to darken her hair because her natural hair color is blonde, but then she's Latin. She's, I'm sorry, Colombian, I'm going to say. I don't know.
That sounds right.
I don't know. But like, anyway, she's like, she's from one of the
guys.
Latin countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, I mean, if you guys know.
Yeah. Put in the comments.
But like, she was told to like have her hair be dark and be black, actually, not even brown, but like black, because that is the stereotype.
Makes her more Latin.
And, in the first episode, in the first early seasons, first maybe 2 seasons, her hair is black.
Of Modern Family.
Yeah, her hair
That's
is
so
black.
interesting because the other thing, the adverse side of that is like if you watch Spanish television, like telenovelas or like even the Spanish news, all of them look white.
Yeah, I know. All the billboards that you see, it's like, wait a minute, they have blonde hair and they're white. And I'm like, and yet the language would be Spanish. And I'm like, what is this message?
Yeah. But I know in India too, like, I mean, there's a lot of like colorism.
Well, India is a very complex society, so I don't want to go into that.
Sure.
But I will tell you that in my own personal life, because I was like, there's 2 sides to my story as always. Like when I was younger, I was overweight and I was darker. So I was not considered pretty. And my hair was short, which I will tell you, I have a hair story. Hang on, don't go away. So, that, but I was also photogenic. So what ended up happening is that people, like my friends, like their parents or whatever, like people wanted to have the freedom to hate me because like they wanted to like point me out and say things to me because I was not pretty, I was overweight and I was dark. So that they felt entitled them to like put me down. But then they would see me on stage, they would see me performing, they would see my photos, and then all of a sudden it would be like, oh, you know. So then the word I would hear my whole life is you're gorgeous. I wouldn't hear you're pretty. I've never heard you're pretty because they can't say that because only white women, white color is pretty.
Interesting.
So I faced that kind of dichotomy and like the level, like, you know, classism, so to speak.
Classism is,
you know? And when I came here and I became an actor, the same thing happened to me because my hair is curly. It's not naturally straight. I am now, because most people think of me, not anymore, but back in the day, everybody thought of me as Latin. People used to ask me, can you speak Spanish? I have had people like stop me on the street and like, you know, ask me a question in Spanish and me being like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. And then yell at me for not being in touch with my culture.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've had like people stop me at Whole Foods and be like, you know, young lady. And I was like, no, I'm not Latin, I'm Indian. And that's why like, you know, I don't speak Spanish. I speak Hindi, I speak Punjabi. So like that kind of stuff has happened to me because I was not fitting into a box. I was more curvy. I wasn't overweight when I was in my 20s or whatever, but like I was more curvy. My hair was curly. I was lighter, and therefore they thought of me as Mexican, as Latin, as Colombian even. That's the one country I do know because I used to drink a lot of Colombian coffee. But and then like I would go, and then of course the Mindy Kaling stereotype happened, right? The straight hair, the darker woman, and they were like, well, you know, you are kind of like Mindy Kaling, but I was like, but I'm not. You know, like the only thing that's different is like and then this thing of like you're North Indian, you're South Indian, you know, that's its own thing,
right?
You know, so. Again, like just like you were talking about, like I also found myself not fitting in because, and then I was a first generation immigrant. So they wanted me to tell stories like, oh, you know, I was a child bride, or I was, you know, running away because they wanted me to marry me to a goat or whatever, right? And I was like, but those aren't my stories.
Yeah.
You know, my stories are that I went to a private school and blah, 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 and my life changed. And that's why I'm here. And the only reason I came to America is because I wanted to go to Harvard. Like, that's why I agreed to come. You know, I didn't come here because I was running away from a warlord. But people didn't want to hear that story.
People want to put you in a box.
They really did. They wanted to hear the, you know, I'm proud to be in America. And I was like, for me, it felt like a natural progression of where my life was headed. I was already on a path of expansion, and I got to come to America, and it was supposed to be next level up. But what ended up happening is I got pulled back because they were like, you don't look right, you don't fit right, you don't speak right, you don't, you know, we don't know what to do with you, your hair isn't right. And then I went through a phase of straightening my hair, you know, so trying to fit in. I actually got myself sick. Like I got a major hormonal imbalance that has lasted me almost 10 years because I was eating nothing but protein at a time when I guess my body was changing. And I did so much damage to my body because I was trying to slim down, and my body's natural curves is curves. It's not that standard, you know, thin, straight hair Indian woman. I am more on the curvy side.
Right.
I'm more on the curly side.
Well, and the funny thing, you say standard, but it's like, is it standard or is it just like, isn't India huge? Like, there's got to be way more of you, you know, like it's just what you see on TV. It's what you see like in Bollywood, or it's like what you see is like you see a stick thin, straight haired Indian girl, you know?
And the thing is like in India and Bollywood, like women are not thin. Like, you know, like women, even when they're muscular, they're still curvy.
Yeah.
Even when they're like fit, they're still curvy. This whole stick shift thin thing is a very uniquely like American Indian thing.
It's American Indian.
Yeah, it's not like in America.
Interesting.
Yes, now women are obviously more driven to be thin and all of that is fine, but naturally Indian beauty was more about being curly, having like thick hair, you know, curly or straight, nobody cared, you know, that kind, like it was all about celebrating the femininity and the, you know, the colors and the vibrance of, you know, of women versus like putting them into this like pre-prepared box.
Into this box, yes.
And then like that wasn't that big a deal. Like it felt like women of all shapes and sizes were like welcomed or accepted in the Indian culture. But then when I came here, I noticed that women looked very specific. Indian women had very specific look, straight hair, thin, all of that, And when I came to Los Angeles to be an actor, like
specifically Los Angeles too.
Specifically Los Angeles.
Yeah, because there's a look here, I will say. I've noticed. I'm like, oh, this is the LA look. Okay, I see it.
LA, I mean, like when we used to go back from LA to Sacramento, like back when we unfortunately were forced to mingle with those people.
Your old family.
My so-called old family.
Right.
They, like, we stood out as sore thumbs. They would be like, oh, you're not from here. Because just the fact that, we were just loud. Like, our clothes were loud. Our attitudes were loud. We were called brashy. For, the Sacramento crowd. Yeah, right? So even when you're trying to belong and trying to fit in, you just don't know what about you is going to trigger something. It's something in someone, And I think that has been like the biggest takeaway for me, because how many different ways can you like contort yourself, in trying to like appeal to somebody? Yeah. And like, actually, I thought of the hair story that I wanted to share. So like you were talking about how like long hair was such an identity for you. The same thing happened to my mom. My mom had like very thick hair, but she had like problem hair for some reason.
Problem hair.
Whose
problem?
Who knows?
But yes.
But she had problem hair. And so she would ask her mom, my grandma, repeatedly to have her hair cut. And she wouldn't get the permission to get a haircut. And when my mom got married, that was the first thing she did.
Wow.
She got her hair cut like the smallest, like almost like a pixie cut.
Yeah.
Like as short as she could possibly get it, because she was finally, like for the first time, free to like make a decision about herself. So when I was born, and again, both my parents were like rebellious, like they rebelled from their parents' upbringing a little bit. So when I was born, they like purposely, as like a statement making thing, would not let me grow my hair out. I had short hair for like my entire teenage life.
That's so weird. Like that's such the reverse. Like, Mom, did you not learn? Did you not learn from your parents what they did to you, not to hand it down to your daughter?
No, but like it did. But it was like, and I was gonna like. The fact that I had short hair would get comments to her. Like people would be like, oh, she's a girl. Shouldn't her hair be longer? And I was like, no, it's fine. Short hair is better. So like, she had to like defend her decision to let me and like when I wanted to grow my hair, my mom was like, okay, cool. But as long as like she was like the one making decisions, and even my dad, like I always had short hair because that was such a statement making thing of like, we're not going to be like you.
Yeah.
My daughter is going to have shorter hair.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And it's weird how like culture just works that way,
It's cyclical. I think things come and go.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting trying to carve out your own space because like we said before, especially in our industry.
Well, let's actually have this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel, like, where do you stand now? Do you stand out? Do you fit in? What do you think you are now?
When it comes to what?
To, like, fitting in versus standing out or, like, carving your own space. Like, how do you, like, deal with all of the differences?
To be honest, I have embraced my individuality.
But what does that mean, though?
It means that I will wear my hair the way I want it to be. I will come into the room, like, for example, like auditioning and things, like, I'm not going to try to fit in with what I think, with what I'm pretty sure they want.
So then how do you reconcile that with the idea of like the industry has its own standards and you're not going to have the success until you meet those standards?
Well, see, I don't believe that.
Really?
I don't believe that. I believe that, like, yes, if you want to, I'm not judging anyone for whatever they decide to do. I think it's everyone's individual choice. But for my individual choice, I know what I have and I know what I bring. And I know that what I bring is my own unique essence and my own unique voice. And I rely on that versus what maybe the industry thinks I should be. And don't get me wrong, like I did a couple episodes of Penguin on HBO, and they They put my hair back and they put long ass extensions that were straight, and they did my winged liner and they made me look like a Latina gangster badass. And look, I'll do it. I mean, whatever. But like for that audition, I wore my hair curly and I just did my thing. And I think at the end of the day, it's just about that comfortability with your own self reads. And I think that like, yeah, maybe you're not what they thought you wanted, but you can change their mind. And so that's where I'm with it, where I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm going to bring me, I know what I do. I know what I do is good. I've trained and I'm going to come in. And if this isn't what you want, then that's more your issue than my issue. I don't take it personally anymore. I'm like, this is who I am. And I'm comfortable with that. And I love that, actually. So like I said before, it takes time to get there, but like it is possible to get there.
Cool.
How do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about going into the room as like an Indian woman and how people kind of like perceive you? Do you feel like you have found the comfortability with yourself in that way?
I think my identity shifted more along the lines of becoming spiritual. So I think becoming spiritual, for better and for worse, takes away the cultural identity.
Interesting.
So you don't, at least for me, again, this is me, there's going to be people who disagree with it. I no longer feel the need to relate to a culture, to a language, to a something. Like it's not the thing that's like the first front-footed thing that I come into the room with.
Sure.
Because I think my energy as I'm getting older and as I'm getting more and more, like I'm reading books and this and that, and I'm, getting deeper into my spiritual teachings. What I'm learning is that I love the idea, like I'm, like you were saying, like more essence based. I'm becoming like more relational. I'm becoming more connection driven. I'm becoming more like vision driven. Like, oh, this is the ideal career. These are the roles for me. I want to be this detective. I want to be this, best friend. I want, like these kinds of, that's how like my identity has shifted. So what I'm noticing though, is that the more comfortable I got with myself, right? With my messiness, with my like, I don't give a shit if you know my language or if you whatever you think I am, I'm cool with it. That kind of thing of like, I think the more I embodied that, the more people started feeling comfortable with me.
I feel you there, yeah.
Right? Because I think I was no longer repelling people. And I think the other way of saying that is that you're attracting your soul tribe.
Right.
You're attracting your community. You start collaborating with people who are on the same wavelength as you.
Yes.
And culture and language and looks no longer seem to be the thing that drives everything.
Yes, that's so interesting that you say attracting things, because I went to an event last week. It was like a film premiere. And afterwards, there was kind of just like a session, and there were some people there, and I was just kind of, mingling.
Right.
And then I just kind of like, there was someone there who kind of has a bit of a name and like had like a circle around them.
Right.
And I was just like kind of standing there, and the guy next to me is just like, are you going to go? And like, and I was like, no, I attract, hun. I attract. I don't like, chase. I attract.
Yeah.
Because I'm at this point in my life where like, I give no fucks. Oh my God. Is it that? Is it just the fact that I give no fucks anymore?
I mean, and I think that's also why, like, for the longest time, like, patriarchy worked so hard to silence the voices of older women, because older women do not give fucks. Like, as we start to become more into, like, I am not the person I was in my 20s.
Of course not.
I am not the person I was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's because you start to accept, like, how much of the conditioning is coming from the outside world, and you don't need to respond to that.
How many of those voices are not your own?
Oh my goodness. And for women, it's like every voice that's coming to you.
Every voice. It feels,
someone else's.
Like I said before, like cutting my hair, how hard I held on to my hair when I had wanted it short for so long. I remember having Pinterest boards where like my hair was short, and I was like, no, can't do it.
Not allowed.
Not allowed, or like not pretty. You know, I'm not going to be pretty anymore.
Not
Your
pretty.
hair is the thing you get complimented on all the time.
Yeah.
I can't let go of that. And I'm like, oh, I'm not letting it go. Actually, and like you said before, I'm owning it. And like, I think that's part of it too. That's the biggest takeaway for me, is just like, own who you are.
Yeah.
Like, own it.
And you know, and it's not in like this, you know, fuck all y'all, like
No.
I'm gonna crawl. No, it's not even that. Like
No.
it's an embodied embracing who you are.
Yes.
And it simply comes from the fact that when you stop trying to fit in, right, and you stop trying to stand out. I think, right?
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Correct.
Because you no longer need to push. You don't need the outer validation, and you don't need to like overwork and overproduce so people can say what awesome you are, like how like you rock. You don't need to do that side of the equation, and you also don't need to be like, oh, you know, if I'm important, they'll come for my autographs.
Yeah.
No,
it's finding that balance, finding that flow, finding that like where you and yourself can just embody yourself, and you can just do things because you want to do them, not because someone else told you that you needed to do it a certain way.
And, you know, and the fantastic thing about that kind of thinking is that it feels easy. When it's the right thing for you,
yes,
it just flows.
It does.
You somehow are able to do the work because the work feels right.
Exactly.
You can't like, you're like waking up in the morning excited,
Yeah.
right? So that's the fantastic thing. Like, not only are you not struggling with yourself and you're not like, you know, having those inner mind like fights with yourself and mental chatter, you're actually doing the thing that you will do that's going to bring you joy, that you are meant to do.
Yes.
So, you know, if you give away and give up on the labels and start approaching life from the point of view of essence, of energy, of embodiment, of anything that is not about projections, but like about ownership, I think your energy starts to shift.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, and that's where you find out, hey, who am I?
Right. What are my values?
What are my values?
What do
Oh
I
my
want?
God. What drives me? And, you know, there's this brilliant conversation that I heard. They said, well, you know, this guy wrote on X or something, I forget which platform. And he said, well, you know, instead of like, why don't we try everybody, like create a system where everybody becomes a billionaire? And there was this wonderful reply from this guy who said, not everyone wants to be a billionaire. Like, how about we create that society where one who wants to be a cop gets to be a cop, and one who wants to be, you know, an Ivy League teacher gets to be that, and one who wants to be a politician gets to be that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, billionaires, I mean, nobody should be a billionaire. I'm sorry. Like, in order to be a billionaire, you have to step on so many people. You have to be such a fucking, like, it's not easy to get to $1 billion.
Well, and now I think what's happening now is that they're controlling the finite systems that are existing in the world.
Yeah.
That's how they're becoming billionaires. It's not because of their talent. It's not because of their skills. They
No.
may have some creative ideas.
Sure.
But they have manipulated the government, the system,
Every-
demand and supply, people, politicians, to make sure that the flow of the resources is happening towards them.
Exactly.
And that's why there's such of like, you don't get to change the rules of the game just because they suit you better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So one final thing before we go.
Yes.
How do you, as an actor, show up despite feeling rejected by the industry?
I make my own shit.
Ooh,
I make my own
nice.
work. Yeah. I'm at the point where, like, yes, I'm auditioning. Yes, I have a team. Yes, I've done all those other things that you quote unquote are supposed to do as
Right.
an actor.
Right.
But I think in
Paying
order
your dues.
Yeah, but I think in order to really feel like I belong, for lack of a better word, is by me carving out my own space and making what I want to make, and not letting these limitations that the industry puts on you limit me. Or, you know, put me in that box. I'm like, no, I'm breaking out.
What's in that box?
Yeah, not me. Not me.
Not Ruth.
Yeah, not me. Yeah. What about you?
I have just changed the way that I play the game. First of all, I'm in the same boat as you, that I am making my own content, because that's the only way you can start to feel like what. First of all, like you get to share your voice. The reason why you're an actor in the first place is because you want to be able to create something that's gonna have a legacy that can outlast you, so that that thing gets fulfilled. But I also have started believing that if believing in the idea of there's a greater purpose, and maybe it's naive and maybe it's idealistic and maybe it's too Aaron Sorkin-y, I don't know. But I love the idea of believing in the magic. I love the idea of anything can happen. Like tomorrow, you wake up tomorrow and who knows, I might get that film that's just literally being written right now for me. So I love more and more to live in the idea of possibilities and in the idea of what will today bring? And
I love that. Cute.
Right? And my brother, it annoys my brother because he's like, you do not live on this planet. And I'm like, that is correct. That's why I have you in my life.
Yeah.
But I think that approach at least takes away, actors have this thing, right? Where we're like, what should our self-tape look like? What should it be like? Where should the lighting be? Where should this be? And so that
perfectionism,
so that we can book the job.
Yeah.
It's like, let's not think about that.
And to be honest, being on the producing side and producing my own film and all these things, you realize how not important that is. And you realize, oh wait, people don't care. You don't
actors,
care if they're good. If you're good, that's really it.
And the idea of good is are you right for the role right now? That is the definition of good. It has nothing to do with technique and how many repetitions you do.
Well, I mean, it has something to do with talent for sure, or certain things. But yes, I agree. You have to be right for it. Is it what the writer or the director or the producer saw in their head, or are you able to change their minds?
Yeah, I mean, do you fit into the vision, or can you change the vision?
Exactly, and approaching it with that, we're maybe I don't fit this character description, but you know what? I'm gonna change it, and I'm gonna make it my own, and I'm gonna bring me, and that's
how you stand out or fit in, right? And you're no longer worried about whether you're standing out or fitting in because you're being you.
Just be you guys.
And on that note,
we will see you next week.
Yeah, oh my God, yes. Next episode.
On Break the Norm.
Next time on Break the Norm Podcast. I think something that culturally that we're all becoming hip to is this idea of standing up for others. Standing up and being the voice of people who can't stand up for themselves. That is a new addition to what it means to be a complete human being.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in today's episode of Break the Norm.
We want to give a very special shout out to the team that's making this podcast possible. SCV Studios, our editor, Eileen Hanley.
Our producer, music and sound recording, Hugo Fowler.
And before we leave, we ask people to subscribe and leave us a review. We are everywhere you listen to your podcast. And that's it. We'll be back, right? We're done?
We'll be back.